I'm glad my sister slept with my boyfriend. I sat at the dining table pushing food around my plate while my sister Christy talked about herself for the third time that hour. Christy had this way of making every dinner feel like her personal TED Talk. She examined her manicured nails while she spoke, tilting her hand to catch the light like she was admiring a diamond ring that wasn't there. My boyfriend Leon sat next to me scrolling through his phone under the table. Lately, he'd been checking out mentally while I sat right next to him. Christy's boyfriend Mason sat across from me, arms crossed, watching her with the kind of tired expression that told me he'd heard whatever she was about to say at least 10 times before. "So I've been thinking," Christy said. She looked around at all of us like she was about to deliver a keynote speech. "I have this idea. It's kind of crazy, but hear me out." Mason muttered, "Here we go," under his breath, and Christy shot him a look that could curdle milk. He didn't flinch, just leaned back in his chair and waited. I'd always thought Mason was quiet because he was boring. Now I was starting to think he was quiet because he'd learned that speaking up around Christy was pointless. "I think you and I should swap boyfriends," Christy announced. I blinked, then laughed out loud because there was no way she was serious. I looked at Leon expecting him to be laughing too. He wasn't. He had finally looked up from his phone and was watching Christy with more interest than he'd shown me in months. "I'm serious," Christy continued. She smiled the way she always did when she wanted something, the one that made her look sweet, but felt like a threat. "Think about it. Mason is so boring. No offense, babe." She waved her hand in Mason's direction without actually looking at him. He never wants to do anything spontaneous. He just wants to stay home and watch movies and cook dinner. It's like dating a retirement home. Mason snorted quietly. "Better than dating a tornado that destroys everything and calls it excitement," he said. His voice was calm, but there was an edge underneath it. Christy ignored him completely, like she hadn't even heard him speak. "And Leon?" Christy said, leaning forward with her chin in her hand. "He's adventurous. He's fun. He's always down to try new things. I just feel like we'd be way more compatible. It makes sense if you think about it." I stared at her. "You're insane," I said flatly. "I'm practical," she replied. "Why should we both be stuck in relationships that don't fit when we could just trade? It's not like any of us are married, Bailey." "Christy, that is genuinely the dumbest thing I've ever heard you say. And you once told me you thought the sun and the moon were the same thing." "I was 12, she snapped. "And stop deflecting. I'm offering you an upgrade." She gestured toward Mason like he was a prize on a game show. Mason raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Leon cleared his throat. "I mean," he said slowly, "it's not the worst idea." My whole body went cold. I turned to look at him so fast my neck cracked. "Excuse me?" He shrugged. One of those lazy, careless shrugs that made me want to throw my fork at his face. "What? I'm just saying. Might be fun to try something different. We've been together 2 years, Bailey. Things get stale." "Stale," I repeated. My voice came out flat and hard. "Yeah, don't act like you haven't noticed." I had noticed. I just thought it was something we'd fix together, not something he'd use as an excuse to trade me in for my sister. Christy clapped her hands together. "See? Leon gets it. Come on, Bailey. 1 month. That's all I'm asking. If it doesn't work out, we switch back and forget it ever happened. No harm done." "No," I said. "Why not?" "Because it's crazy. Because you're my sister. Because this isn't a Netflix movie. Pick a reason." She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. "God, you're so dramatic. It's not that serious. Mason doesn't care." She looked at him expectantly. "Right, babe? Tell her you don't care." Mason looked directly at me. His expression was unreadable, but something flickered behind his eyes. Exhaustion. Maybe amusement. Maybe pity. Whatever makes this dinner end faster. Christy beamed like he'd just proposed. "See?" She reached into her designer purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I even drafted a little contract. 1 month minimum. No backing out early. No running to mom and dad. We all agree to give it a real shot. She slid the paper across the table toward me. "Come on, Bailey. Live a little. Unless you're scared Mason won't like you." That was the trap. I saw it the second she said it. Christy had been pushing my buttons since we were kids, and she knew exactly where every single one was located. The smart move was to stand up and leave. To grab Leon and walk out and never speak of this ridiculous idea again. But Leon was already reaching for the pen. "Leon," I said sharply. "Don't you dare." He signed his name without hesitation, without even glancing at me, like I wasn't sitting right there, like 2 years meant absolutely nothing. "Relax, babe," he said, sliding the paper to Christy. "It's just a month. Might be good for us. Shake things up. Might be good for us." Like I was the problem. Like our relationship was stale because of something I did wrong. My vision blurred with anger. 2 years I had given him. 2 years of excusing his laziness and his selfishness and his inability to make me feel like a priority. And this was how he repaid me. By signing away our relationship at this dinner table without a second thought. Christy signed next, her signature as dramatic and loopy as her personality. Then Mason signed with a quick scribble, still looking vaguely amused by the whole thing. They all turned to look at me. "Bailey," Christy said sweetly, "poison wrapped in honey. Don't be the only one who ruins this." I should have walked away. I should have told every single one of them to rot. But Leon had signed that paper like he'd been waiting for an escape hatch, and something about that made me refuse to be the pathetic one begging him to stay. I grabbed the pen, signed my name in hard, angry strokes, then threw the pen onto the table so hard it bounced. Christy smiled. That perfect, practiced smile that never once reached her cold eyes. "Trust me," she said. "This is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you." She had no idea how right she was. You see, I signed that contract thinking I was the one getting screwed over. My boyfriend wanted out so badly he agreed before I could even say no. And now I was stuck with some stranger my sister called boring. But here's what my sister didn't know when she forced me to sign that paper. Her boring, safe, not exciting enough boyfriend? He was hiding something that was about to flip this entire situation on its head. And the second she found out, she was going to lose her mind. Mason texted me 2 days later asking if I wanted to grab coffee. I stared at the message for a full minute trying to figure out if this was some kind of trap Christy had set up. But the text was simple. No games. Just, hey, figured we should actually talk since we're stuck together for a month. Coffee? I typed back sure, before I could overthink it. We agreed to meet at a cafe halfway between our apartments. Neutral territory. I got there 15 minutes early, ordered a latte I didn't really want just to have something to hold, and grabbed a table in the corner. When Mason walked in, I almost didn't recognize him. Every time I'd seen him before, he'd been sitting next to Christy looking like he wanted to dissolve into the floor. Now he walked in wearing a simple black t-shirt and jeans, hands in his pockets, looking like a completely different person. Relaxed, unburdened. He spotted me and gave a small wave before sitting across from me. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then he laughed quietly and shook his head. "This is weird, right?" he said. "It's not just me?" "It's extremely weird," I quickly agreed. "I keep waiting for Christy to pop out from behind a plant and tell me this was all some elaborate prank." "That would require her to admit she was wrong about something," Mason said. "So we're safe." I snorted. I couldn't help it. He smiled a little, and I realized I'd never actually seen him smile before. Not once in the entire year Christy had been dating him. "So," he said, leaning back in his chair, "how are you holding up with the whole Leon situation?" I wrapped my hands around my cup and thought about how to answer that. The honest answer was that I'd spent the last 2 days cycling between rage and humiliation. The polished answer was that I was fine and handling it maturely. I went with honest. "I keep replaying it in my head," I admitted. "The way he just signed that paper without even looking at me." I was already gone in his mind. Mason nodded slowly. "Yeah, that was rough to watch." "Was it obvious?" I asked. "From the outside, I mean. That things were bad between us?" He considered the question for a moment. "I don't know if bad is the right word. It was more like he wasn't fully there. Every time I saw you two together, he was either on his phone or looking somewhere else. You'd be talking and he'd be checked out. I noticed because..." He stopped himself. "Because what?" "Because Christy does the same thing to me," he said. "Different flavor, but same energy. She's not checked out, she's just waiting for her turn to talk. Every conversation is just her waiting for an opening to bring it back to herself." "The TED Talk thing," I said. "Exactly. I used to think maybe I was boring. She told me I was boring so many times I started to believe it. But then I realized she called everything boring that wasn't directly about her. A movie she didn't pick? Boring. A restaurant that wasn't Instagram-worthy? Boring. Me wanting to spend a night cooking dinner instead of going to some overpriced club? Boring. She called you a retirement home at dinner. That's a new one, actually. Usually it's grandpa or old man or my personal favorite. Why are you so obsessed with being comfortable?" He said the last part in a pitch-perfect imitation of Christy's voice, and I laughed harder than I meant to. "She's exhausting," I said. "I love her because she's my sister, but God, she's exhausting." "She's a black hole," Mason said. "Everything gets sucked into her orbit. Your time, your energy, your money." I spent $800 on a purse for her birthday, and she returned it because it wasn't the right shade of beige. $800? How the hell could he buy that and not bat an eye? What did he do for work? I was definitely going to ask after he finished ranting about my sister. She showed me the exact one she wanted. I bought it. Apparently there's a difference between sand and oatmeal, and I should have known that. I shook my head in disbelief. Leon forgot my birthday last year. Just completely forgot. I reminded him the week before and the day before, and he still forgot. Then he got mad at me for being upset because birthdays aren't that serious. Christy made me throw her a surprise party and then got mad that I invited her friends instead of people who would make her look better. Mason said. "I still don't know what that means." "It means she wanted hot friends for photos," I said. "Her friends are hot. Not hot enough, apparently." We both laughed and something changed between us. The awkwardness melted away, and suddenly we were just two people who had been through the same war comparing scars. "Can I be honest with you?" Mason asked. "Please." When Christy brought up this whole swap thing, I wasn't surprised. I was relieved. I've been trying to find an exit for months, but every time I brought up breaking up, she'd cry or threaten to tell everyone I was emotionally abusive or say she'd hurt herself. I was trapped. My stomach turned. "Mason, that's manipulation." "Yeah, I know. But when you're in it, you don't see it clearly. You just feel guilty all the time and you don't know why." He ran a hand through his hair. "Anyway, I signed that contract because it was the first door she'd opened willingly. Even if it's only a month, it's a month where I don't have to pretend anymore." I understood that more than I wanted to admit. Leon made me feel like I was asking for too much, I said quietly. Somehow wanting him to pay attention to me was needy. He made it feel like expecting him to remember things was demanding. I kept shrinking myself to fit into whatever space he left for me, and it was never enough. "We both picked wrong," Mason said. "We really did." He smiled again. That small, quiet smile that made his whole face soften. "Well, silver lining, at least we're stuck with each other now instead of them. Is that a silver lining? I guess we'll find out." I smiled back. For the first time since that disaster of a dinner, I felt something other than anger. I felt seen. "Hey, random question," I said. "What do you do for work? I realized I don't actually know anything about you." Christy never talked about you unless she was complaining. Mason hesitated. Something flickered across his face. Not quite discomfort, more like he was deciding how much to share. I actually just quit my job, he said. About 3 weeks ago. Oh. I tried to keep my expression neutral. So how did he afford the $800 bag? Was he secretly a trust fund baby? Are you looking for something new or? Not exactly. He took a long sip of his coffee. I quit because I don't really need to work anymore. He paused and laughed awkwardly. This is going to sound insane. I won the lottery. Like actually won. Not like $100. I mean, I won millions. I choked on my latte. Coffee went down the wrong pipe and I spent the next 30 seconds coughing while Mason handed me napkins looking mildly concerned. Sorry, he said. I probably should have led with that. You probably should have, I wheezed. Millions? Yeah, millions, plural. Yeah. And Christy doesn't know? Nobody knows. I haven't told anyone. I didn't even tell Christy because he stopped and looked at me like he was waiting for me to connect the dots. I connected them instantly. Because she'd never let you go. Because she'd never let me go, he confirmed. She'd suddenly love everything about me. The staying home, the cooking, the comfortable quiet life. All of it would become perfect the second she found out there was money attached. I sat back in my chair and stared at him. This man my sister had thrown away because he wasn't exciting enough. This man she called boring and safe and compared to a retirement home. He was a millionaire and she had absolutely no idea. She's going to lose her mind, I said. Mason's jaw tightened. Yeah, he said quietly. I know. A millionaire. This man my sister threw away because he wasn't exciting enough had just won millions of dollars. I knew my sister better than anyone. I knew exactly what she was like when she didn't get what she wanted. But Christy not getting something she never knew existed? That was one thing. Christy finding out she had it and gave it away? That was going to be nuclear. The only question was how long until she found out. And honestly, it didn't take long at all. Mason called his mom a week later to tell her the mortgage was paid off. I was sitting next to him on his couch when he made the call, and I watched his whole face light up as she cried happy tears on the other end. It was one of the most genuine moments I'd ever witnessed. What neither of us realized was that Christy had shown up unannounced again, still using the key she refused to give back. She was standing in the hallway when she heard him say, "It's done, Mom. The whole thing. You and Dad never have to worry about the house again." Then we heard someone screaming like a banshee. It was Christy. How? Christy shrieked, storming into the living room like a tornado in designer heels. How did you pay off a mortgage, Mason? That's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Where did you get that kind of money? Mason's face went pale. He ended the call with his mom and stood up slowly. Christy, you need to leave. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what the hell is going on, she screamed. Her eyes were wild, darting between me and Mason like she was trying to solve a puzzle that would ruin her life. You work a normal job. You drive a 10-year-old car. You told me you couldn't afford to take me to Cabo for my birthday. And now you're paying off mortgages? It's none of your business, Mason said. His voice was calm, but I could see his hands shaking slightly. We're not together anymore. Remember? You made sure of that. Christy's head snapped toward me. You, she hissed. You knew. You knew this whole time, didn't you? That's why you agreed to sign that contract so easily. You knew he had money and you played me. I scoffed. Are you hearing yourself right now? You proposed the swap. You wrote the contract. You forced everyone to sign. I didn't even want to be part of this ridiculous situation, but you and Leon made that choice for me. There's no way this is a coincidence, Christy insisted. Her voice was getting higher and more unhinged with every word. You must have found out somehow. Maybe you went through his stuff. Maybe you hacked his bank account. I don't know how, but you knew and you stole him from me. I didn't steal anyone, I shot back. You threw him away. You literally handed him to me on a silver platter because you wanted my neglectful checked-out boyfriend instead. That was your choice, Christy. No one made you do that. I didn't have all the information, she screamed. If you had known he was rich, you would have pretended to love him, I finished. That's exactly why he didn't tell you. He knew you'd only want him for his money. And look at you right now, proving him right. Christy's face turned a shade of red I'd never seen before. She looked like she was about to spontaneously combust. This isn't fair, she wailed. I deserve to know these things. We were together for a year. You should have told me. Why? Mason asked quietly. So you could suddenly find me interesting? So you could pretend the staying home and cooking and comfortable life wasn't boring anymore? I know exactly how that conversation would have gone, Christy. You would have loved everything about me the second you found out there was money attached. And that's exactly why I never told you. Christy opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. For once in her life, she had nothing to say. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next morning, my phone exploded with calls from my mother. When I finally answered, she told me Christy had called an emergency family meeting and I needed to come home right now. No excuses. I walked into my parents' living room an hour later to find Christy already in position. She was curled up on the couch with a blanket around her shoulders, tissues scattered around her, eyes red and puffy from what I assumed was strategically timed crying. My mom sat next to her, rubbing her back. My dad stood by the fireplace looking uncomfortable. Bailey, my mom said in that soft, disappointed voice she reserved for moments when she thought I'd done something wrong. We need to talk about this situation with Mason. Let me guess, I said flatly. Christy told you her version and now I'm the bad guy. No one said that, my mom said. Your sister is hurting. Christy let out a theatrical sob. I just want things to go back to normal, she whimpered. I made a mistake. I admit it. I should never have suggested the swap. But Bailey is rubbing it in my face and refusing to switch back, and it's not fair. A mistake, I repeated. You planned this for weeks. You drafted an actual contract. You brought a pen to dinner, Christy. I didn't know what I was giving up, Christy wailed. He kept things from me. He hid who he really was. How was I supposed to make a fair decision without all the information? So now it's his fault you treated him like garbage? I asked. He didn't owe you his bank statements. You were supposed to love him, not treat him like a wallet. My dad cleared his throat. Bailey, maybe your sister has a point. This whole thing has gotten out of hand. Why don't you just end it early and let everyone move on? She hasn't stopped crying. She's crying because she missed out on millions, I said. Not because she lost some great love. If Mason was still broke, she'd be at brunch right now posting selfies with Leon. That's not fair, Christy insisted. You don't know what's in my heart. I had something real with Mason and I didn't see it. Is that what you want me to say? Fine. I was blind. I took him for granted. But I see it now. You see his wallet? I said. That's not the same thing. My mom sighed. Bailey, please. Just consider ending this early. For the family's sake. I looked at my parents. At my sister. At the perfectly orchestrated intervention designed to guilt me into giving Christy what she wanted. And I felt something cold and final settle in my chest. No, I said. The contract says 1 month minimum. No backing out early. No running to mom and dad. I looked directly at Christy. Those were your rules. You wrote them specifically so I couldn't escape when things got hard. Well, guess what? Now you can't escape either. You want to be with Leon so badly? Go be with him. Leave me and Mason alone. I walked out before anyone could respond. 2 days later, Mason showed up at my apartment looking exhausted. He dropped onto my couch and pulled out his phone without saying a word. You need to see this, he said, handing it to me. I scrolled through the messages from Christy. There were dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. I made the biggest mistake of my life. Please give me another chance. I miss you so much. I miss your cooking. I miss your hugs. I miss everything about you. I'll change. I promise. I'll stay home every night. I'll watch whatever you want. I'll never complain again. I love you, Mason. I've always loved you. I was just too stupid to see it. I'll cook for you. I'll learn all your favorite recipes. I'll be the girlfriend you always deserved. Please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. Anything. I looked up at Mason. She's offering to cook? That's how you know she's desperate. She once told me she'd rather die than learn how to use a stove, he said flatly. Now she's offering to make me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She's also offered to delete Instagram, stop going to clubs, and quote, be happy with a boring life as long as it's with you. Wow, I said. She really wants that money. He took his phone back and tossed it on the coffee table. I'm not responding. I'm done. What are you going to do? He looked at me and something in his expression made my chest tighten. Stay right here, he said, with someone who actually sees me. She begged. She cried. She dragged our parents into it. She blew up his phone with messages saying things she never said once during their entire relationship. Nothing worked. The contract she created to trap me was now the thing keeping her locked out. But if you think my sister just gave up after that, you don't know her at all. When begging doesn't work, she switches tactics. And what she did next almost destroyed everything I was building with Mason. The next 2 weeks with Mason were the happiest I'd been in years. We fell into a rhythm that felt natural in a way my relationship with Leon never had. Mason cooked dinner while I sat on his kitchen counter and we talked about everything and nothing. He remembered that I liked my eggs over medium, and that I hated cilantro, and that I always needed a glass of water on my nightstand before bed. Small things. Things Leon never bothered to learn in 2 years. One night we stayed up until 3 a.m. watching terrible horror movies and making fun of the bad acting. Another night he taught me how to make his grandmother's pasta recipe and didn't get frustrated when I overcooked the noodles twice. He laughed and said, "Third time's the charm." And it was. We ate that pasta on his living room floor because neither of us wanted to move to the table, and it was the best meal I'd ever had. You know what I like about you? Mason said one night while we were lying on his couch, my head on his shoulder, some cooking show playing in the background that neither of us were watching. My devastating wit and charm, I offered. He smiled. You don't perform. You just exist. You're not trying to be anything other than exactly who you are. Being with you feels like I can finally breathe. My chest tightened in the best way. I don't think anyone's ever said that to me before. Then no one's been paying attention, he said quietly. He shifted so he could look at me properly. I mean it, Bailey. You're funny and sharp and you don't pretend to be someone you're not. That's rare. That matters. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't used to someone seeing me like that. Wasn't used to being enough exactly as I was. You matter too, I finally said. Just so you know. You're not boring or safe or whatever other stupid words people have used. You're steady. You're kind. You remember things. You show up. I paused. That's everything. Mason's expression softened in a way that made my heart stutter. I kissed him for the first time that night. It felt like the most natural thing in the world. Christy must have sensed that something had changed because that's when the sabotage started. Our first real date was at a small Portuguese restaurant Mason loved. We were halfway through our appetizers when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Oh my God, what a coincidence, Christy said, appearing at our table like she'd appeared from thin air. She was dressed to kill, full makeup, heels that could double as weapons. I didn't know you two would be here. Mind if I join? Yes, I said flatly. We mind. She ignored me and pulled up a chair anyway, positioning herself right between us. "So how's it going?" she asked, eyes fixed on Mason. "Getting to know each other? Taking things slow, I hope. You really shouldn't rush into anything serious. Rebound relationships never work out." "This isn't a rebound," Mason said. His voice was calm, but I could see his jaw tightening. "And you weren't invited, Christy. I'm just looking out for both of you," she said sweetly. "Bailey doesn't have the best track record with relationships, and I don't want you to get hurt, Mason. You deserve someone who's going to stick around." "Like you stuck around?" I asked. "When you traded him for someone more exciting?" Christy's smile flickered but didn't drop. "I made a mistake. I've admitted that. But Bailey rushing into something with you isn't going to fix anything. She's just using you to get back at me." Mason stood up and dropped cash on the table. "We're leaving," he said, reaching for my hand. "Don't follow us." We walked out and left Christy sitting alone at the table. But that wasn't the end of it. She showed up at the next date too. And the one after that. Coffee shop. Movie theater. A bookstore where Mason wanted to show me his favorite section. Every single time she appeared out of nowhere with some excuse about coincidence or concern. Every single time she found a way to mention that I was moving too fast, or that Mason deserved better, or that rebound relationships were doomed to fail. When the direct sabotage didn't work, she switched to a different approach. Suddenly, every family member I had was texting me with concerns. My aunt wanted to know if it was true that I'd manipulated Christy into the swap. My cousin asked why I was being so cruel to my sister during her time of need. My mom called 3 times in 1 week to tell me that Christy was barely eating and couldn't stop crying, and didn't I feel any guilt at all? "She's telling everyone I planned this," I told Mason one night, scrolling through yet another concerned text from a relative I barely talked to. "She's saying I knew about the money and I tricked her into the swap so I could steal you." "That's insane," Mason said. "You didn't even want to sign the contract." "She's rewriting history," I said. "And everyone's believing her because she's Christy. She's the pretty one, the charming one, the one who always gets what she wants. And I'm just Bailey, the difficult one who ruins everything." Mason took my phone out of my hands and set it face down on the table. "You're not the difficult one," he said firmly. "You're the only one in your family who sees her clearly. That doesn't make you difficult. It makes you honest." Christy called me that night. I don't know why I answered. Maybe I was hoping she'd finally say something real. Something that wasn't manipulation or guilt or strategy. "You're really doing this," she said. Her voice was cold, controlled, no more theatrical crying. "You're really choosing a man over your own sister." "I'm not choosing anyone over you," I said. "You did this, Christy. All of it. The swap, the contract, everything that's happening right now is because of choices you made." "He was mine," she hissed. "For a whole year he was mine, and you just swooped in and took him the second you saw an opportunity. You threw him away," I said for the 100th time. "You literally handed him to me and told me to sign a contract saying I'd keep him for a month. Now you're mad that I actually like him? That's not my fault, Christy. That's yours." She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "You're going to regret this," she said. "I'm your sister Bailey. Blood. And you're throwing that away for some guy you've known for mere weeks." "I'm not throwing anything away," I said. "You are. You've been throwing things away your whole life because you always think something better is coming. Well, guess what? Mason was the something better. And you gave him up." I hung up before she could respond. Mason was watching me when I set my phone down. "Your sister is exhausting," he said quietly. I laughed even though nothing was funny. "Yeah," I said. "She really is. Christy crashed our dates. She told our family I manipulated her. She tried to make me choose between her and him like I was the villain in this story she created. And every single time she failed. He saw right through her. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought she'd finally run out of moves. Then she went quiet. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. And that silence? That terrified me more than anything she'd done before because Christy doesn't go silent. She doesn't just give up." A week passed with nothing. No ambushed dates, no family members texting me with concern, no hysterical voicemails at 2 a.m. My phone stayed quiet, and it made me more anxious than all the chaos combined. "Maybe she's finally done," Mason said one night while we were cooking dinner together. "Maybe she realized it wasn't working and moved on." "You don't know Christy," I said, stirring the sauce with more force than necessary. "She doesn't move on. She regroups." But days kept passing and still nothing. I started to wonder if maybe I was wrong. Maybe she really had exhausted herself. Maybe even Christy had a limit. Then she texted me. It wasn't a paragraph of guilt or manipulation. Just 6 words. "Can we talk? Coffee tomorrow?" I stared at the message for 10 minutes before responding. "Fine. 2 p.m. I told Mason about it that night and he offered to come with me. I said no. Whatever this was, I needed to face it alone. Christy was already at the coffee shop when I arrived. She was sitting at a corner table with a cup of tea in front of her. No makeup, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked almost normal, almost human. It was unsettling. "Thanks for coming," she said as I sat down. Her voice was calm. "What do you want, Christy?" She took a slow sip of her tea and set the cup down carefully. "I wanted to apologize for everything. For showing up at your dates, the family stuff, the texts to Mason, all of it. I was out of line and I'm sorry." I waited for the catch, the manipulation hidden inside the apology. But she just sat there looking at me with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. Acceptance. "I've had time to think," she continued, "and I've made peace with how things are. You and Mason are together. The contract will be over soon. Whatever happens after that happens. She shrugged like it didn't matter. I'm done fighting. Just like that, I said slowly. You're done. Just like that. She smiled, but it wasn't her usual sharp smile. It was softer, almost sad. Enjoy him while you can, Bailey. You two seem happy. And when the month is over, we'll figure out where everyone stands. She tilted her head slightly. Maybe Mason and I will work things out. Maybe we won't. But I'm not going to keep making myself crazy over it. Something about the way she said, enjoy him while you can, made my stomach turn, as if she knew something I didn't. I had a feeling she was already counting down to something. Okay, I said carefully. Thanks for the apology. Of course. She stood up and grabbed her purse. I'll see you around, Bailey. Tell Mason I said hi. She walked out and I sat there for a long time trying to figure out why her being calm scared me more than her being unhinged. Things were finally quiet. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt like I was waiting for a bomb to go off. Christy doesn't lose gracefully. She doesn't lose at all. So when she suddenly acted like none of it mattered anymore, I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what. Then my phone rang at 2 a.m. She was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. And what she told me next? It changed everything for everyone involved. My phone rang annoyingly on the nightstand next to me in the middle of the night. I sat up in bed and quickly answered the phone knowing nothing good happens after 2 a.m. It was Christy calling. Bailey. She choked out between sobs. Bailey, I messed up. I messed up so bad. This wasn't her theatrical crying. This was different. Raw and ugly and gasping. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep and uncontrollable. Christy, slow down, I said. What happened? Are you hurt? I slept with him, she wailed. I slept with Leon. The words hit me like a bucket of ice water. You what? I know, she sobbed. I know. I'm sorry. I was angry and hurt, and he kept texting me saying how much he missed having someone who appreciated him, and I just wanted to feel wanted, and it happened, and I'm so sorry, Bailey. My brain was still trying to process what she was saying. Christy slept with Leon. Even I hadn't slept with Mason. When? I demanded. When did this happen? A few days ago, she whispered. But that's not why I'm calling. Bailey, there's something else. Something worse. Worse than my sister sleeping with my ex-boyfriend? I couldn't imagine what could possibly be worse than that. He told me after, Christy said, her voice cracking on every word. After we slept together, he told me he has something. An STD. He said he found out a few weeks ago, but he didn't want to tell anyone because he was embarrassed. The room started spinning. I gripped the edge of my mattress to steady myself. He has what? I don't know exactly what, Christy cried. He wouldn't give me details. He just said I needed to get tested and that he was sorry. He said it like it was nothing, Bailey. Like he hadn't just ruined my entire life. My stomach dropped through the floor. 2 days. Leon and I had slept together 2 days before the swap. I remembered it clearly because it had felt like a last attempt to fix something that was already broken. I thought maybe if we reconnected physically, things would get better. They didn't. And now that night might have cost me everything. Christy, I said slowly, my voice shaking. If Leon has something and he found out a few weeks ago, that means he had it when we were together. I slept with him 2 days before the swap. The line went silent except for Christy's ragged breathing. I don't think she'd even considered that. She'd been so focused on her own crisis that she hadn't connected the dots to mine. Oh God, she whispered. Oh God, Bailey, I didn't even think. No, you didn't, I snapped. You never do. I hung up and immediately called Mason. He answered on the second ring, voice groggy with sleep. Bailey, what's wrong? I told him everything. The words tumbled out in a rush, and by the end of it, I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. I'm coming over, he said. Don't move. He was at my apartment in 15 minutes. I opened the door and he pulled me into a hug without saying a word. We stood there in my doorway for what felt like forever while I tried to remember how to breathe. We need to get tested, I finally said into his chest. Both of us. If I have something and we've been together. Hey, Mason said, pulling back to look at me. I haven't slept with anyone else. So whatever's happening, I'm not worried about me. He cupped my face in his hands. I'm worried about you. And we're going to figure this out together, okay? I nodded even though nothing felt okay. We were at the clinic the second it opened. Christy was already in the parking lot pacing back and forth with mascara streaked down her face. Leon pulled up 5 minutes later looking annoyed like he'd been dragged out of bed for something inconvenient. This is ridiculous, Leon muttered as we all walked inside. I told you it's probably nothing serious. You're all overreacting. Overreacting? Christy shrieked. Several people in the waiting room turned to stare. You told me after we slept together, Leon. After. That's not overreacting, that's attempted murder. That's not what attempted murder means, Leon said flatly. I don't care what it means, Christy screamed. You should have told me before. What kind of person does that? The kind who didn't want to have this exact conversation, Leon shot back. Look, I'm not the villain here. I found out and I told people. That's more than a lot of guys would do. You want a medal for the bare minimum? I asked. You had something and you kept sleeping with people anyway. That's not honesty, Leon. That's recklessness. I didn't keep sleeping with people, he snapped. I slept with Christy one time after I found out, and I told her right after. Right after isn't before, Christy yelled. Right after doesn't protect anyone. A nurse appeared and called Leon's name first. He stood up and shot all of us a look of pure irritation. You know what? I'm the one who has to live with this, not you. So maybe save the judgment until you get your own results. He disappeared down the hallway, and Christy immediately burst into fresh tears. Mason put his arm around me and I leaned into him, trying to block out the sound of my sister's sobbing. They called my name next. The nurse led me to a small room with lighting that made everything feel clinical and cold. She asked me questions about my intimacy history, and I answered them with a detached numbness that didn't feel like my own voice. She took blood and handed me a cup for a urine sample and told me results would take 48 to 72 hours. Is there anything else I should know? I asked before she left. She looked at me with practiced sympathy. Try not to spiral before you have answers. I know that's easier said than done, but worrying won't change the results. I walked out of that room feeling like I was carrying a time bomb inside my own body. Mason went in after me even though he insisted he wasn't worried. For solidarity, he said. Christy went last and came out looking like she'd aged 10 years and 15 minutes. The four of us stood in the parking lot afterward in the most awkward silence of my entire life. Leon leaned against his car with his arms crossed, looking defensive. Christy kept checking her phone like the results might magically appear early. Mason held my hand and said nothing. This is your fault. Christy finally spat at Leon. All of this. If you had just been honest from the beginning, if you hadn't pushed for this stupid swap, none of us would be here. Leon shot back. You wanted excitement, Christy. Well, congratulations. This exciting enough for you? Don't you dare blame me for your disease, Christy screamed. It's not a disease, it's a condition, Leon yelled. And I got it from someone else, so technically I'm a victim too. You're a victim? I yelled. That's your takeaway from this. Forget it, Leon said, throwing his hands up. I'm done. Call me when you all decide to stop treating me like a criminal. He got in his car and drove off. Christy collapsed against her own car and started crying again. Mason squeezed my hand. 48 hours, he said quietly. We just have to get through 48 hours. I looked at my sister sobbing in the parking lot, at the empty space where Leon's car had been, at the clinic behind us where our futures were now sitting in vials waiting to be analyzed. 48 hours. It might as well have been a lifetime. Mason stayed with me the whole time even though he had nothing to worry about. He hadn't been with anyone. I had. 2 days before the swap, I'd slept with a man who couldn't even warn me what he was carrying. When the clinic called, I answered on the first ring. They had all 4 results ready, and only one of us was going to walk away destroyed. The clinic called 48 hours later. I was sitting on Mason's couch pretending to watch TV when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. My heart stopped. I answered before the second ring. Hi, this is Bailey, I said, my voice coming out steadier than I felt. Miss Holmes, this is Dr. Warren from the clinic. Your results are in. Are you able to come in this afternoon to discuss them? Can you just tell me over the phone? I asked. Please, I can't wait any longer. There was a pause. Then she said, your results came back negative. You're clear. The air rushed out of my lungs. I doubled over on the couch and tears spilled down my cheeks before I could stop them. Mason was next to me instantly, hands on my shoulders, panic in his eyes. Bailey, what's wrong? What did they say? I couldn't speak. I just gave him a thumbs up through my sobbing and watched the terror on his face melt into relief. He pulled me into his chest and held me while I cried. Thank you. I choked into the phone. Thank you so much. I hung up and we sat there in silence for a long moment. Then Mason's phone rang. He answered it with shaking hands even though we both knew he had nothing to worry about. He'd gone to get tested for solidarity, not necessity. But I watched his face anyway as he listened. He nodded once, said, okay, thank you, then hung up. Negative, he confirmed. Not that there was any doubt. I laughed through my tears. I know, I just needed to hear it. We had maybe 10 minutes of peace before my phone buzzed again. A text from Christy. Results are in. Mom and Dad's house. Now. She didn't say what her results were. Mason drove. I stared out the window the whole way trying to figure out how I was supposed to feel. My sister had spent weeks making my life miserable. She'd sabotaged my dates. She'd turned my family against me. She'd slept with my ex-boyfriend. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, but mostly I just felt hollow. Leon's car was already in the driveway when we arrived. Christy's was parked crookedly on the street like she'd barely stopped before jumping out. We could hear raised voices before we even reached the front door. Inside was chaos. Christy stood in the middle of the living room with her arms crossed tight against her chest. She wasn't crying yet, but her eyes were red and swollen like she had been recently. Leon sat on the far end of the couch looking defensive and small. My parents hovered near the kitchen doorway, clearly lost. Finally, Christy said when she saw me. Now everyone's here. What's going on? My mom asked. Christy wouldn't tell us anything until you arrived. Christy took a shaky breath. I wanted everyone to hear this together. She looked at Leon with pure venom. Tell them. Tell them what you told me 3 weeks ago and then decided to keep secret. Leon's jaw tightened. I already told you I'm sorry. I don't know what else you want from me. I want you to say it, Christy screamed. Out loud, to everyone. So they all know exactly what kind of person you are. The room went silent. Leon looked around at all of us, then dropped his head. I have an STD, he said quietly. I found out about a month ago. I should have told people sooner. I didn't. My mother gasped. My father's face went pale. Mason squeezed my hand. Bailey, my mom said, turning to me with terror in her eyes. I'm negative, I said quickly. I got my results today. I'm clear. Relief flooded her face, then confusion. But if Leon has something and you two were together, we got lucky, I said. Or I did anyway. The implication hung in the air. Everyone slowly turned to look at Christy. She laughed bitterly. It was the kind of laugh that comes right before someone falls apart. "I'm positive," she said. Her voice cracked on the second word. I tested positive. Because this piece of garbage knew he had something and slept with me anyway and didn't bother to mention it until after. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. "Christy," Leon started. I swear I didn't know how serious it was. The doctor said it was manageable and I was still processing and I didn't know how to bring it up. "Manageable?" Christy exploded. "You think that makes it okay? I have to live with this forever, Leon. Every relationship I ever have for the rest of my life is going to start with me explaining that my disgusting, reckless ex-boyfriend infected me because he was too much of a coward, to be honest." "I'm not disgusting," Leon shot back. "I made a mistake. People make mistakes." "A mistake is forgetting someone's birthday," Christy screamed. "A mistake is shrinking someone's favorite sweater. This isn't a mistake, Leon. This is my life. And you ruined it because you couldn't handle an uncomfortable conversation." She was shaking now, tears streaming down her face, all the fight draining out of her with every word. "And you know what the worst part is?" she continued, her voice dropping to something broken and raw. "I did this to myself. I had Mason. Sweet, kind, loyal Mason who never would have done something like this to me, who actually cared about me, who turned out to be a millionaire." She laughed again and it sounded like glass breaking. "I had a millionaire who wanted to take care of me and I threw him away for this." She gestured at Leon with disgust. "For a man who couldn't even give me basic human decency." "Christy, I really am sorry," Leon said weakly. "Get out," she whispered. "What?" "Get out of this house," she screamed with whatever energy she had left. "I don't want to look at you. I don't want to hear your voice. You've done enough damage to last me a lifetime. Literally. Get out." Leon looked around the room hoping someone would defend him. No one did. My father stepped aside and pointed toward the door. Leon grabbed his jacket and left without another word. The door closed behind him and Christy collapsed onto the couch. The screaming was over. What replaced it was worse. Quiet, shattered sobbing. The sound of someone who had finally run out of people to blame. "I ruined everything," she whispered between sobs. "I had the perfect guy and I threw him away because I thought I deserved more. And now look at me." She buried her face in her hands. "Look at what I got instead. I was negative. Mason was negative. Christy wasn't." She completely fell apart in front of everyone, screaming, crying, blaming my ex for ruining her life. And in the middle of her breakdown, the truth finally came out. She told us exactly why she pushed for the swap in the first place. What she said next made everything make sense. And honestly, it made me feel nothing for her at all. The room was quiet except for Christy's sobbing. My parents stood frozen, unsure whether to comfort her or keep their distance. Mason stayed close to me, his hand steady on my back. I watched my sister fall apart and waited to feel something. Sympathy, anger, satisfaction, anything. But there was nothing, just emptiness. "Christy," my mom finally said softly, stepping toward the couch. "Honey, it's going to be okay. We'll figure this out together. These things are manageable now. Medicine has come so far. You don't understand," Christy choked out. "None of you understand. Then help us understand," my dad said. His voice was tired, defeated. "Explain to us how we got here." Christy lifted her head from her hands. Her face was swollen and blotchy. Mascara streaked down her cheeks like war paint. She looked at me and something shifted in her expression. Guilt. Real, genuine guilt that I'd never seen on her face before. "I need to tell you something," she whispered. "All of you, but especially Bailey." My stomach tightened. "What?" She took a shaky breath. "The swap wasn't random. It wasn't some crazy idea I came up with at dinner. I'd been planning it for weeks." The words hung in the air. I stared at her, not comprehending. "What do you mean you'd been planning it?" "Leon and I," she started, then stopped, swallowed hard, started again. "Leon and I had been talking, before the swap, for about a month." My blood turned to ice. "Talking how?" "Texting mostly. Sometimes calls when you weren't around." She couldn't meet my eyes. "It started innocent. He reached out to complain about your relationship and I listened. Then it became flirting. Then it became more." Mason's hand tightened on my back. My mother made a small wounded sound. My father's face hardened into something I'd never seen before. "You were pursuing my boyfriend," I said slowly, "while I was still with him." "I didn't mean for it to happen," Christy said desperately. "It just did. And then I realized I wanted him, really wanted him, but I couldn't just steal my sister's boyfriend. That would make me the villain. So I came up with the swap." The pieces started clicking into place. The contract she'd already had written, the way Leon agreed so quickly, the way she'd pushed and pushed until I signed. "He knew," I said. "It wasn't a question. Leon knew about your plan." Christy nodded miserably. "We talked about it beforehand. He was supposed to act surprised when I brought it up at dinner. We rehearsed it." She laughed bitterly. "He wasn't even that good of an actor. He agreed too fast. I was worried you'd figure it out." I thought about that dinner. The way Leon's eyes had lit up when Christy mentioned the swap. The way he'd signed that contract without hesitation, without even looking at me. I'd thought he was just checked out of our relationship. Turns out he'd already checked into a new one. "The whole thing was a setup," I said. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. "You manipulated me into handing over my boyfriend so you could have him without looking like the bad guy." "I'm sorry," Christy sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Bailey. I never meant for any of this to happen. I just wanted—" "You wanted what you wanted." I cut her off. "You've always wanted what you wanted, and you've never cared who you hurt to get it." "That's not true," she cried. "I love you. You're my sister. You don't love anyone but yourself," I said. The words came out calm and cold. "You proved that when you went behind my back with Leon. You proved it again when you tried to sabotage my relationship with Mason. And you're proving it right now by making this about your guilt instead of what you did to me." Christy flinched like I'd slapped her. My parents stood in stunned silence. Mason said nothing, but I could feel his support radiating through his touch. "I thought if I got Leon through the swap, it would be okay," Christy whispered. "I thought we'd be happy together and eventually you'd move on and forgive me. I never imagined it would end like this." "You never imagined there'd be consequences," I corrected her. "That's different." She broke down again, shoulders heaving with sobs. "I ruined everything. I schemed and planned and manipulated everyone, and for what? A man who couldn't even be honest about his own health. A man who gave me a disease and then blamed me for overreacting." She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "You got the millionaire who treats you like gold, and I got exactly what I deserved." I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The girl who had been my best friend growing up, the woman who had betrayed me in the most calculated way possible, the person who was only sorry because her plan had backfired. "Yeah," I said quietly. "You did." I took Mason's hand and walked toward the door. My mother called after me, but I didn't stop. There was nothing left to say. It was clear Christy wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry her plan didn't work.